My name is Jason, a seasoned realtor with a penchant for old historical homes. My latest assignment, however, promised to be anything but ordinary. A mansion steeped in Gothic allure and shrouded in enigmatic whispers. As I approached, the house loomed over the secluded neighborhood, its spires piercing the fog-laden morning like silent sentinels. Locals kept their distance, trading stories of hauntings and secrets best left undisturbed. To me, it was a tantalizing challenge. Arriving early, I was greeted by the oppressive weight of the morning mist. The mansion's grandeur was undeniable, even through the veil of neglect that had settled over it. Ivy clung tenaciously to the stone walls, and the once proud windows now wore a patina of grime and age. There was an air of melancholy about the place, as if it mourned its lost splendor. Inside, the house felt suspended in time. Dust coated every surface, and the air was heavy with the scent of aged wood and forgotten histories. Each creak of the floorboards underfoot echoed through the cavernous rooms, a ghostly reminder of the mansion's former life. Notebook in hand, I meticulously documented the necessary repairs and updates. Despite its current state, the house's potential was clear. It simply needed the right vision to bring it back to life. As I moved through the grand yet forlorn rooms, a disquieting sensation took hold. It was as if the house was aware of my presence, its silence charged with an almost palpable watchfulness. I dismissed the feeling, attributing it to the eerie stillness and the mansion's imposing aura. In the living room, my attention was drawn to a massive antique grandfather clock. Its intricate design was undeniably beautiful, yet it felt incongruous, a relic from another era. Deciding that it might deter potential buyers, I resolved to move it. As I pushed against the clock, a soft click resonated through the room. The clock slid aside effortlessly, revealing a hidden passageway. A thrill of fear and excitement coursed through me. What secrets lay behind these walls? The passage was narrow and dark, its walls lined with dust and cobwebs. My breath caught in my throat, but curiosity propelled me forward. I stepped into the darkness, my phone's flashlight casting a feeble beam of light. The passageway was claustrophobic, just wide enough for me to navigate. As I ventured deeper, I noticed small peepholes and hidden panels embedded in the walls. These clandestine vantage points offered glimpses into the rooms beyond, a secret network designed for observation. Peering through one of these peepholes, my mind raced with questions. Who had constructed this elaborate system, and for what purpose? The deeper I explored, the more intricate the spying apparatus became. Two-way mirrors, paintings with eye holes, and old TV screens connected to hidden cameras revealed a sinister voyeurism. It was both fascinating and horrifying. The mansion was not merely an old house. It was a testament to someone's dark obsession with surveillance. As I delved further into this labyrinthian network, an uneasy feeling grew. The walls seemed to press in on me, the air thick with secrets long kept. Suddenly, a sharp click echoed behind me. The passageway had sealed itself, trapping me in the suffocating darkness. Panic surged through me as I realized the gravity of my situation. I was alone, ensnared within the mansion's insidious embrace. The walls of the narrow passageway grew tighter around me as I ventured deeper into the house. The air was heavy with dust, and the cobwebs clung to my clothes like ghostly fingers. I held my phone tightly, its weak flashlight barely cutting through the oppressive darkness. Each step echoed softly, a stark reminder of my isolation. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of anxiety that only grew louder with each passing second. The passageway was a hidden artery running stealthily between the walls of the mansion. Its existence was a testament to the ingenuity and perhaps the madness of its creator. I paused to catch my breath, glancing around at the shadowed corridor. The walls were lined with small, circular peepholes, each one offering a clandestine view into the mansion's various rooms. I couldn't help but wonder who had once spied through these hidden lenses, and why. I approached one of the peepholes cautiously, peering through it into the room beyond. The living room, grand and elegant, looked unchanged from my earlier inspection. But from this secret vantage point, it took on a sinister quality. I felt like an intruder, a silent observer in a house that was never truly empty. Continuing down the passage, I encountered more of these voyeuristic tools. Two-way mirrors cleverly disguised as ordinary wall decor, paintings with unnerving eye holes, and ancient, dust-covered TV screens connected to hidden cameras. The network of surveillance was disturbingly thorough. It was both a marvel of engineering and a chilling glimpse into a mind obsessed with control and observation. My fascination quickly turned to horror as the reality of the mansion's dark history began to sink in. Who had lived here, and what had they done within these walls, all under the watchful eyes of this hidden system? The questions gnawed at me, but there were no answers, only the relentless weight of the darkness around me. As I explored further, a sense of unease settled over me, heavy and suffocating. The passage seemed to twist and turn in an endless maze, each corner leading to more questions. I was so engrossed in the eerie discoveries that I almost missed the subtle shift in the air, a barely audible click that sent a shiver down my spine. I turned to retrace my steps, but the passageway behind me had closed, the hidden door seamlessly blending into the wall. Panic surged through me as I pushed and pulled at the unyielding barrier. I was trapped, caught in the mansion's secret heart with no way out. The darkness closed in, and the air grew more and more stale with each panicked breath. I forced myself to calm down, to think rationally. There had to be another way out. I turned back into the passage, my eyes straining to pierce the gloom. The mansion's secrets had ensnared me, and I knew I had to find a way to escape before they consumed me entirely. Trapped within the mansion's labyrinthian passageway, I pressed forward, my pulse thrumming in my ears. The narrow corridor seemed endless, each twist and turn leading me deeper into the darkness. My phone's battery was dwindling, the flashlight flickering precariously, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. Suddenly, I heard voices. The muffled sounds of a heated argument reached my ears, carried through the passage by some unseen conduit. I followed the voices, my curiosity piqued despite the fear gnawing at my insides. The passageway led to a small peephole, and I cautiously peered through it, my heart pounding. Through the tiny aperture, I saw the living room once more, but this time it was occupied. A group of people stood in the center of the room, their faces contorted with anger. They argued vehemently, their words indistinct, but their gestures violent. The tension in the room was palpable, a storm on the verge of breaking. As I watched, the argument escalated. One man, taller and more imposing than the others, seemed to dominate the exchange. His face was a mask of fury, his movements aggressive. The others cowered slightly, their own anger tinged with fear. The scene unfolded like a macabre play, and I was the unwilling audience. Without warning, the confrontation reached a horrifying climax. The tall man pulled out a weapon, a glinting blade that caught the dim light, and plunged it into one of the others. The victim's eyes widened in shock, his hands clutching at the wound as he crumpled to the floor. The room erupted into chaos, the remaining individuals either fleeing or frozen in terror. I stifled a gasp, my mind reeling from the violence I had just witnessed. The passageway felt suddenly claustrophobic, the walls closing in on me as if sharing in my horror. I wanted to look away, to unsee the gruesome tableau, but my eyes were locked on the unfolding nightmare. In my shock, I shifted slightly, causing a faint sound, a barely audible creak. Instantly, the tall man's head snapped in my direction. His eyes, cold and calculating, scanned the room. He stepped closer to the hidden passageway, his expression darkening as he scrutinized the wall. Panic surged through me. Had he heard me? Did he know I was here? I held my breath, willing myself to remain perfectly still. The man reached out, his fingers brushing against the wall near the peephole. He muttered something to the others, his tone sharp and commanding. They began to search the room as they looked for the source of the sound. Despite their efforts, they couldn't find the hidden entrance. Frustration etched itself into their faces, and the tall man's expression turned murderous. He barked orders, and the others quickly moved to comply, gathering their belongings and the body of the victim. Unable to find me, the killers hatched a plan. I listened in horror as they discussed their next move. The tall man's voice was low and menacing as he outlined their desperate measures. They couldn't leave any evidence behind, and with an intruder possibly witnessing the murder, they had no choice but to destroy everything. "We'll burn it down," the tall man said, his tone final. "Everything and everyone goes up in flames. We can't risk it." My heart sank as I realized the gravity of my situation. They intended to burn the house down to eliminate any trace of their crime, and me along with it. The air grew thick with tension as the killers set their plan into motion, their footsteps echoing ominously as they moved about the house. Smoke began to seep into the passageway, its acrid scent filling my lungs. The heat followed, oppressive and suffocating. Flames crackled and roared, consuming the old wood and sending tendrils of fire licking through the walls. I coughed, struggling to breathe. As the temperature rose, desperation clawed at me as I searched for another way out. The passageway seemed endless, each turn leading to more darkness. My phone's flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into total blackness. I stumbled forward, my hands outstretched, feeling my way through the suffocating heat and smoke. Desperation fueled my every step as I groped and stumbled through the dark, smoke-filled passage. My lungs burned, and each breath felt like inhaling shards of glass. The heat was unbearable, sweat pouring off me as the fire devoured the house above. I could feel the structure groaning, the walls around me growing hotter by the second. Just as hope began to wane, my fingers brushed against a cool, metallic surface, a door handle. I turned it frantically, and the door creaked open to reveal another narrow passage. This one was slightly wider, with a faint draft of fresh air that gave me a sliver of hope. I crawled through, the cool air a stark contrast to the inferno behind me. The passage led to a hidden tunnel that extended beyond the house's foundations. I stumbled through, my body weak and trembling from the smoke inhalation and adrenaline. The tunnel was damp and musty, but it was a lifeline. I pushed forward, driven by the primal instinct to survive. I emerged from the tunnel into the woods that bordered the property. collapsing onto the damp earth. The mansion behind me was now a raging inferno, flames licking the sky as the structure crumbled. I lay there, gasping for breath, the cool night air soothing my scorched lungs. From my vantage point, I could see the distant glow of emergency lights as fire trucks and police cars raced toward the blaze. I knew I had to disappear before they arrived. The killers believed I had perished in the fire, and I intended to keep it that way. My survival depended on it. With the last of my strength, I rose to my feet and staggered into the darkness of the woods, leaving behind the life I once knew. The mansion's secrets had almost claimed me, but I had escaped their grasp. Now, I had to ensure they never found me again. In the weeks that followed, I shed my old identity like a snake sloughing off its skin. I moved from town to town, careful to leave no trace. I changed my appearance, my name, everything that tied me to my past life. Every knock on the door, every unexpected noise sent a jolt of fear through me. I lived in a constant state of vigilance, haunted by the events I had witnessed. My new life was a shadow of my former one. I took odd jobs paid in cash, always on the move. I avoided making connections, keeping my distance from everyone. The fear of being found never left me. It was my constant companion, a dark reminder of the night the mansion burned. Years later, while living under yet another assumed name in a nondescript town, I came across a newspaper article about the mansion's fire. It was now a part of local legend, shrouded in mystery and speculation. The unsolved murder and my presumed death had only added to its infamy. My heart pounded as I read about the investigation's dead ends and the enduring enigma of the house's dark past. I put the paper down and stared out the window of my small, rented apartment. The life I led now was a far cry from the one I had before. Gone were the days of confident sales pitches and charming interactions with potential buyers. Instead, I live in constant fear and isolation, always looking over my shoulder, always ready to run at a moment's notice. This self-imposed exile was my prison. The decision to hide, to disappear rather than confront the horrors I had witnessed, had sealed my fate. Every new identity, every move to a different town, reinforced the bars of my confinement. I was haunted not just by the memory of the murder, but by the relentless paranoia that the killers might find out I was still alive. My actions had condemned me to a life in the shadows, where trust and safety were illusions I could never afford. I had built this prison with my own choices, each one driven by the terror of being discovered. The mansion's secrets had ensnared me, not just in its walls, but in a perpetual state of fear and isolation. Reading the article, I knew there was no going back. The life I once had, the person I once was, those were gone, lost in the flames of that terrible night. I was free in the physical sense, but mentally I was shackled by the decisions I had made to survive. And in that sense, the mansion's dark legacy continued to imprison me, no matter how far I ran or how well I hid.